Welcome to Warframes Where They Are Now, a series about reviewing frames that have been out for a while. Despite using facts wherever I can, this is ultimately my opinion on the matter. Thank you for understanding, and please enjoy the video. Hey everybody, sorry I haven't posted in a while. I'm back now. It's a long story. I can break down a little bit of it. I moved, I had to help somebody move twice, I got COVID, and I just got over COVID. Granted, I only had it for about a week, but still. A lot of other stuff that I don't want to get into, really. Also, while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and say I'm changing formats on a couple things. When it comes to the weapons themselves, I'm not rolling a wheel for that anymore, just because, well, one, I lost that wheel, and two, it lagged the hell out of my phone every time I used it, and I'd have to re-update it anyway, even if I still had it. So I'm just going to go in alphabetical order when it comes to arsenal analysis. More specifically, each category of arsenal analysis. I'm still going to spin a wheel at the end of each of these videos, but it's going to be just for which category I'm doing as opposed to which category and then which thing in that category. On the upside, while I had COVID, I did the smart thing and actually set up quite a few of the things for the video, so they're ready to go. I have like the first 6 weapons, the first arc wing, the first arc gun, and one of the sentinels done for it as well. I haven't done the necromex. Honestly, I'm dreading doing those, because with where my win rig is, it's fine, and I don't have all the mods to like fully max it out like I would like to for these videos. But anyways, as a heads up, you may see a re-upload of this video. That's just because I re-uploaded it with removing this part, because this part doesn't need to stay in it for the long term of this video. As far as reworks go, while I've been thinking about it, not 100% sure I'm going to cover those. I am looking forward to doing it, and I do plan on doing a video on them, of course, particularly on Anaros and Nyx. It's kind of funny being able to say I actually want to make a video on Nyx. Anyways, without further ado, let's talk about today's frame. Well, today's frame is Baruuk. It was interesting, because I was actually planning on recording this yesterday, but I realized that it was him, because I was going to do a Warframes Where They Are Now, whoever was after Garuda, because I would go in release order, of course. And then I saw it was Baruuk and realized, oh crap, I have to go and rework my Baruuk, because I haven't touched him since I first built him for Steel Path. Needless to say, I don't use him too much. Let's get into it. Base stats on a max rank Baruuk Prime are 280 health, 465 shields, 240 armor, 300 energy, and 1.2 sprint speed. I do like how high energy he has, and honestly, the 240 armor, not complaining about that for sure. So Baruuk's passive is each projectile dodged, each enemy lulled or disarmed erodes Baruuk's restraint and fuels a storm within. As Baruuk's restraint is diminished, he becomes up to 50% more resistant to damage. I will say honestly that the end there is kind of nice, although I do find it kind of funny because of how his first ability works, which we'll get into right now. His first ability is Elude. You dodge all incoming projectiles, but only when not attacking. And of course you can deactivate it by recasting. Has an initial drain of 25, it is a channeled ability with energy drain of 2.5 per second, which isn't too terrible for it. Has an initial angle of 180 degrees, which actually is affected by range mods, and you can get it to a full 360 degrees, which is very nice. Of course, as we discussed in the passive, each shot that you dodge, I guess, would actually wear away at his restraint, which allows you to use his 4th ability, which we'll get into when we get into it. His first ability does have an augment, that being Elusive Retribution. And that one is, every attack that Baruuk eludes increases his melee attack speed and critical damage by 5% up to 6 stacks, and stacks last 6 seconds. Everything about that is affected by mods, which is actually quite nice. I personally don't use it, because my 4th ability, which is what that affects, actually does quite a bit of damage already. Like, I'm able to kill Steel Path enemies with it just fine, so I don't really want to dedicate a mod slot to it. That's not to say it's bad. Honestly, I'm unsure of how good it actually is, considering I have played with it very little. It seems like it'd be a pretty okay mod, but that's about it. Honestly, let me know in the comments how you guys feel about this one. I genuinely don't know. His second ability is Lull. A calming wave slows enemies until they fall into slumber. Enemies woken by damage will be confused and disoriented. Short-term amnesia means all waking enemies forget anything that happened before the lull, which effectively means that you can use it for stealth kill affinity. I personally use Loki with Helmet Silence for stealth kill affinity, and I only really use that for leveling up bows that are particularly annoying to level up. But it is nice to know that Baruuk is an option, and he has it just in general built in. But anyway, he has a radius of 25 meters, duration 5 seconds, sleep duration of 20 seconds. But the other thing you can use it for is to wear away your restraint, which is pretty much the only other thing I was using it for before I helmeted it off. His second ability does have an augment, that being Endless Lullaby. Performing a finisher on or killing a sleeping enemy will re-trigger Lull for 100% of the remaining duration. As well as Lull itself has plus 50% duration. Neither of those durations are affected by mods, unfortunately. But I will say, honestly, this seems like an interesting way to make Lull work. I haven't played around with it myself, although I do intend to. Just haven't gotten around to it because, as I mentioned earlier, I don't really play Baruuk too often. But either way, I do think that's kind of an interesting idea for an augment. His third ability is Desolate Hands. You summon an array of orbiting daggers to seek out enemy guns, destroying them with a small explosion. You can combine with Elude to double the range. The number of charges is affected by ability strength, not duration, bear that in mind. Don't fall into that trap like I did at one point. The damage itself is a little bit of blast damage. It does hit the enemy, but not for much. Also, something that the description doesn't actually tell you, but to be fair, it does actually list it underneath the area of damage here, is you actually have damage reduction. It's 10% per dagger, up to 90% damage reduction, which is actually kind of nice. Honestly, Baruuk has a lot of damage reduction when you really look at it, between his passive, Elude, and this. Doesn't have an augment. Granted, the only thing I could figure for an augment for it is perhaps giving it, like, some sort of status application, maybe. Like, maybe have it apply some viral or corrosive or something. His fourth ability is Serene Storm. With his restraint eroded, he commands the Desert Wind to deliver powerful radial strikes with his fist and feet. Each moment commanding the storm restores his restraint. Now, the nice thing about this is it doesn't cost any energy to do his fourth ability, at all. It only targets his restraint as far as the cost goes, which is actually very nice, because you can run his other abilities no problem without it affecting how his fourth operates at all, because it's entirely based on, his restraint, which, I mean, I guess you have to use his abilities to wear that away, but you're already going to be using it for other reasons anyway. It's kind of nice in that regard. You do have some damage reduction while you're using Serene Storm, which is kind of nice. It's not as high as his Desolate Hands there, at a base of 25, but it is still quite nice. His fourth ability does have an augment, that being Reactive Storm, and that is Desert Wind is granted 250% status chance and changes its damage type to match the enemy weaknesses, which is actually quite nice. The status chance is affected by mods, strength of course, and while the weapon isn't a status weapon, it's still nice having the damage of it based entirely on what the weaknesses of your enemy is. Makes modding a little bit easier in that regard. Personally, this is the augment that I use a lot myself. This is actually the one I have on my Baruuk build, of course. As for my build, it's nothing special, but it does get the job done. I have high range and pretty high strength, and I do have Reactive Storm. I went with the high range for the 360-degree Elude, because why not? Having maximum Elude just is a great time. I do have Arcane Energize and Reaper on him. I went with Reaper over Molt Reconstruct this time because of the fact that he's a melee frame. Once I have max Reaper, I will definitely stay with that. It's nice to have in case of emergencies. Though with all the damage reduction he has, I don't usually need it too often, but it's still nice to have in the back pocket. I did mention that I helmeted off his second ability there earlier, and I did so for Warcry, which may sound strange, but hear me out. It increases the attack speed for you and your allies. I like having the increased attack speed for specifically my Serene Storm, of course, but it's also nice that it does buff your allies, as well as slowing down your enemies. It does have an armor increase, which is kind of just the extra, sprinkles on top of the ice cream there. I have a couple Archon shards on him, of course. I have 4 red shards, because, I built this pre-multicolor shards, or I guess hybrid shards? Anyways. I have 2 for duration, one of them being Town Forge, one of them being regular. And I have 2 for strength, one being Town Forge, one being regular. This is basically just to put a little bit more into making his abilities last longer and hit harder, of course, because, that's the whole point of them. As for my Desert Wind builds, I went with a crit build thanks to the Exalted and Pseudo-Exalted rework, because now I can run Blood Rush. I also have the Gladiator, Vice, and Might for the sole purpose of increasing my Blood Rush, as well as, in the case of Might, increasing crit damage, of course. But it actually hits pretty nice thanks to that. I do have melee afflictions on it because it does apply a lot of lift status, being, the Desert Wind. So having the additional stacks of status when enemies are knocked down or flung is very nice, especially when you have, reactive storm, which means that they're being afflicted by specifically the statuses that they're weak to. But anyways, I do have the Discipline's Merit for Tennokai. I don't typically use a lot of Tennokai on here, but it's nice to have the option, especially considering the fact that, you can see how hard the heavy attacks hit over on the left there. But went with Discipline's Merit specifically because I like having my consistent Tennokai hits, so if I want to start doing heavy attacks, it's every 4 instead of at complete random, which is actually quite nice. So how's Baruuk for Deviri? Well, I personally don't take him too often, but that's just because I'm not a huge Baruuk fan. He does perform pretty well, though. He has a similar bonus to him that a lot of the other Exalted Frames do in Deviri, whereas, because weapons are randomized, it's nice to have a guaranteed decent one in your back pocket. And he has one of the better ones, I would say. But yeah, there's not much more to say on him as far as Deviri goes, honestly. He's just decent for Deviri. So closing thoughts on Baruuk here. Well, he may not be for me, but I would actually say he's one of the better frames in the game. Wouldn't say he's broken by any stretch of the imagination, but I would definitely say he's pretty good. He has one of the better Exalted weapons in the game, especially thanks to the Exalted rework that they did. I haven't played with every Exalted weapon in the game since the rework, but I played with quite a few of them. Either way, I think Lull is fucking great. Mainly because of the fact that it's like, the ability to be impervious to projectiles in every direction is kind of hilarious to me. It's not broken by any means. Matter of fact, I can already hear the Revenant players in the comment section, but anyways. Funny thing before I go, though, I actually encountered somebody, I want to say a year or two ago now, something like that, who was running Baruuk for Eidolons. They wouldn't share their build with me because they wanted to see how long it would take for people to figure out what they're doing. But I honestly think I know what they were doing. I don't know for certain, but this is my best guess. I think they were running Reactive Storm with a bunch of radiation damage on Desert Wind. And probably using Elude to survive, like Gauntlet's lasers and shit, of course. Now, I have no way to confirm that, unless I run into them again, but I think that's what they're doing. Either way, I think that's kind of cool, though. Seeing unique builds for Eidolons in general is always an interesting thing to have happen. But I wanted to bring that up because it has stuck with me, because I've never seen another person run Baruuk for Eidolon since that one person. And they did pretty well, might I add. Well, anyways, that's it for now. So, stay hydrated, and have a good one.